Hi, Paul Slatkus. We're going to have an important conversation. National Cancer Institute has some new findings against breast cancer and potentially others. We're here with the Chief of Surgery branch at NCI's Center for Cancer Research, Dr. Steve Rosenberg. Hi, how are you today?
Fine, thank you. It's good to be with you.
You're one of the researchers and nation leading pioneer on immunotherapy, harassing the power of the patient's own immune system. Harassing the power of the patient's own immune system. What does that mean?
The body has a system, the immune system, to protect the body against foreign invaders, generally viruses, bacteria, other tissues. And data that's been accumulated over the last decade has indicated that, in fact, the immune system in patients does recognize a growing cancer as foreign and tries to reject it. But the immune response against the cancer is too weak to impact on the growth of the cancer. And we're developing ways now to strengthen that immune system so that this new modality of immunotherapy can be brought to bear on the treatment of patients with cancer. And we published some very extensive studies on that subject to understand exactly what it is the immune system recognizes on a cancer. And we're now taking advantage of that to develop new treatments for patients with metastatic breast cancer that's spread throughout the body and has not responded to any other treatments.
Well, I believe metastatic breast cancer could possibly be the worst type of a cancer for somebody to get in the breast.
Well, virtually any metastatic solid cancer that spread from the local site to other sites is incurable by any modalities now available for treatment. You know, we have surgery, radiation, chemotherapy as effective treatments for cancer, but despite their best application, last year, 600,000 Americans died of cancer. 90% of those are due to the solid tumors that start in the colon, the stomach, the esophagus, the breast, the prostate. Once the tumor spreads, there are virtually no curable treatments available. We can prolong life, but not cure patients. Virtually everyone with metastatic breast cancer will ultimately die of that disease. But we're bringing now this new tool, immunotherapy, into the battle, and that's what this paper in the Journal of Clinical Oncology deals with.
Okay, so what's immunotherapy? So how do you go about making that real?
Okay, so we need a little scientific background. It turns out that all of the solid tumors start in ducts, either a duct in the breast or a duct in the colon. And the lining of those ducts, the epithelial cells, are constantly dividing and turning over. And as they divide and turn over, the DNA in the genome of every cell has to get replicated, has to get reproduced. And when that takes place, mistakes are made. They're called mutations. And it's the accumulation of those mutations that cause the cancer itself. And so what we've done is developed a way to screen the products of all of those mutations, and have found that in 42 consecutive patients with metastatic breast cancer, we can identify the nature of the targets of the immune system that can attack a breast cancer in about 70% of patients. And so those targets that we use for this new immunotherapy are unique to each patient. So the treatment we're describing has to be very highly personalized. So what we do is we identify all of the mutations in the cancer by sequencing the genome. Once we know what those mutations are, we then test to see if the patient has an immune reaction against them. And if they do, we isolate those lymphocytes, grow them to large numbers, and give them back to patients. And in the first 6 patients with metastatic breast cancer that we've treated, 3 have had good responses. 1, a complete disappearance of widespread disease now lasting over 5 years. More recently, 2 additional responses in patients who had tumors that regressed for about 6 months, then recurred as tiny tumors which could remove, and those 2 patients are now living disease-free as well. And so of the first 6 patients treated with this new approach, 3 of 6 have responded, and we've now reopened the protocol to treat other breast cancer patients and are now recruiting patients for those clinical trials.
You know, it's like I don't know, like the third story where we're taking something out of the body, working on it, and putting it back into the body. Actually, even feces. I mean, there's people doing things, blood. I got a buddy, he thinks he's got the solution for his foot. You know, they take it out, they do some work with it, then they put it back in. Why is this a good way to go about helping, helping, helping us all?
Well, I can't comment about your friend with the foot problem. I'm not familiar with that. But we know there are immune cells circulating in the body. Every milliliter, thimbleful of blood that circulates contains 1 million lymphocytes that patrol the body looking for foreign invaders. And it can recognize a breast cancer, but not enough to cause that to cause the breast cancer to decrease. Well, by removing a tumor and identifying all of the mutations and T cells that recognize them, we then eliminate the body's own natural immune system temporarily for about 8 to 10 days, giving a lymphodepleting chemotherapy, and that removes the negative lymphocytes that restrict immune reactions. Every physiologic part of the body has a yin and yang, something that stimulates it and something that inhibits it. And by getting rid of those inhibitors, now those cells expanded outside the body can actually cause the cancer to regress when given back to the patient.
I have massive respect for research, and thank you for doing this. My question is then, from the research, from when you say a paper, where does it go? How do we then start to, well, you said you have 6 patients. How do we take it to another level so you have 60 patients and keep trying?
Well, that's exactly what we're doing right now. And that is with the publication of this paper and the reopening of these protocols. The National Cancer Institute has put a 6,000 square foot building on the campus just for this kind of immunotherapy to generate the cells under FDA approved conditions for use in treatment. And so we're now looking to expand that trial to a very large number of patients. It's an experimental treatment and only available now here at the National Cancer Institute for these breast cancer patients. But we are looking for them, and anyone who's interested in at least being referred or evaluated for these clinical trials can contact me directly. It's at SAR for Stephen A. Rosenberg at NIH.gov, and we'll promptly get back to them to accumulate the information we need to see if they are indeed eligible.
Let me ask you, if you have a second, one another thought here. You know, during this whole COVID time, the word, build up your immune system. You know, take 5000C, 5000E. You know, whatever people were thinking would be helpful for them. The immune system and immunotherapy, or what you're talking about, is this the same system that we're talking about, or is that what you're talking about entirely different?
Well, we have one immune system that, again, is constantly patrolling the body to look for foreign invaders. And so the average adult without serious illness has a normal immune system and is capable of responding. And again, in these 42 patients with breast cancer who have, again, the only patients we treat are patients that have been through all standard treatments and the tumor is still progressing. Of those patients, about 70% did mount good immune reactions against their breast cancer. So it's most normal people have normal immune systems.
Let me, is there any, in your study, because you're on this every day here, anything that you think that people can be doing now to keep this from happening to them?
Yes, don't smoke. That's the major advice I would give. Other than that, we're a little bit at the mercy of our environment. But people that don't smoke will have a much lower incidence of lung cancer and some other cancers. But there's little else that we can do. There's not much influence of diet on the immune system. People like to think they can control parts of the body functions, but very often these environmental modifications have very little influence.
Do you have a website or any other information you'd like to share with us, Dr. Rosenberg?
We do. It's people want to find out more about what we do in general can go to our website at the National Cancer Institute Surgery Branch, and there's a fair amount of information there. Or patients who are interested in being evaluated for our trials can email me directly at SAR, stands for Stephen A. Rosenberg. I'm the chief of that group, at nih.gov, and we'll promptly get back to them.
Okay, well, I'm hoping that some people, I actually lost a very, very close friend to metastatic breast cancer about 3 years ago. And it was not a good scenario. And it's not for anybody. And it seems like so many women, I know men are talking now just breast cancer, men get it as well, right? But do men get metastatic breast cancer as well?
They can. It's rare in men, but it certainly can occur. And again, it's important to understand most breast cancers that are localized to the breast are curable by surgery, and sometimes with hormonal therapy as well. The patients that we're talking about today are patients that have had the tumor spread through the body. They've been through standard chemotherapy or hormonal therapy, and the tumor is still progressing. So it's the last group of patients that we hope to provide with some hope for the development of new treatments.
Do they call that stage 4? Is that right or wrong?
That's stage 4 breast cancer, exactly right.
Okay. Well, we thank you very much for doing the kind of work you're doing, and we wish you the solutions to the situation as you continue to work on them. Thank you, Dr. Rosenberg.
You're very welcome. Bye now.